netizens, today we are going to talk about poverty. Poverty is a common problem in our society, and we all know that. The moment you step out from your home, in every crossing, you will come across people who are begging for work. Some else we can see them in the streets, asking for money, roaming around, begging for shelter and everything we need in order to survive in our day-to-day living. We are all suffering and are affected by poverty, not just in the Philippines, but all over the world. How could those politicians afford to sit in a luxurious chair, living in an air conditioning area, eat delicious foods thrice a day or even more, while those people who supports them before they govern in our country only eat just once a day? They use their power in a wrong way and for their own benefit, and because of that, poverty arises. Our talk today answers these questions. First, perception-based indices of poverty are outdated and inadequate for our country. Second, how can we impose a balanced solution to prevent poverty? Why? State your example. Third is, what is your point of view on why people suffer poverty? And as a student, how can you help this situation?
Good morning, Ms. Appen. Perception-based indices of poverty are outdated and inadequate for our country.
So poverty. When we hear the word poverty, the first thing that will come in our mind is all about the suffering of life and the difficulties of life. So for example, the cause of poverty is unemployment. So unemployment, when there is unemployment, there is also crimes. So there are many causes of poverty, but I will explain to you my perception of poverty that are very outdated and inadequate to our country. So the first is in rural areas. So mostly in the Philippines, those who reside in rural areas have a much higher chance of experiencing poverty, with nearly 1/3 of those under the poverty line working as a farmer. So, in the second is the natural disaster. So we can never prevent the natural disaster because it's natural. Yes, it's natural. So, in natural disasters, our livestock, our houses, and many other things that we own will be damaged if the disaster hit us. So for example, in the storm. So if there is storm, the aftermath of it is many houses were damaged, the livelihood of the people, which is that focuses on farmers, they don't have income because their fields, their corns have damaged. So the third is corruption. When I was still a child, corruption, I always hear it, up until now. And the corruption now is much worse than in the past. So in corruption, mostly the politicians, yes, they corrupted money from the government, which is the money is supposed to be distributed to the places, example in the Philippines, who are in poverty. So the money that's supposed to be distributed was being kept by the politician because of the greediness and ambitious to be rich. They want to keep the money for themselves. They didn't think the people who needs help.
Ms. Evangelista, how can we impose a balanced solution to prevent poverty? Why? And state your example.
I strongly believe that reducing poverty requires a focus of both on what government needs to do and what individuals need to do. We need a combination of responsible policy and responsible behavior. Second, although there are many things that might be done to reduce poverty in the Philippines, I want to say a focus on the 3 priorities, which is getting good education, not having children before you marry, and working full-time. Government should expect people to make real effort to comply with each of those norms. When they do, then government should reward such behavior by making sure that those who play by the rule will not be poor. The third one is One of the most effective policy we could put into place to ensure that everyone gets a good education would be to provide a very high quality early education to all children from low income families. Finally, encouraging and rewarding work is also very important. I support the idea of work requirements in welfare and perhaps in other programs as well, but I fear that the kind of increased employment we've seen among welfare mother will be a fiery victory. Example to prevent poverty is in rural areas. I think to solve the problem in the rural areas is to have volunteers and show them how to grow their own food. If people in poverty can learn to grow their own food, they can sell their food and even eat. But this solution can only solve poverty for people in rural areas that have land.
Good morning, Ms. Largo. What is your point of view on why people suffer poverty? And as a student, how can you help this situation?
So, people suffer poverty because of some people are unemployed due to less education. Poverty has many faces, changing from place to place and across time, and has been described in many ways. Most often, poverty is a situation people want to escape. So poverty is a call to action for the poor and the wealthy alike. A call to change the world so many more may have enough food to eat, adequate shelter, access to education and health, protection from violence, and a voice in what happens in their communities. Poverty is a complex societal issue. No matter how poverty is defined, it can be agreed that it is an issue that requires everyone's attention. It is important that all members of our society work together to provide opportunities for all our members to reach their full potential. For me, being a student, I cannot solve poverty. Instead, I can encourage everyone to study, to be educated, strive hard to obtain success, and able to find a decent job. Treat everybody equally. It helps all of us to help one another.
Poverty is rampant in our country today. It has become a great issue in our world. Although poverty is not the only problem of one person, but of the whole nation, especially when pandemic arises. It adds more crisis that every Filipino people suffered so much. It should be dealt with on an urgent basis by the implementation of effective measures, implement various programs and reforms to reduce poverty by targeting education, healthcare, and the overall economy. To reduce poverty, it requires focus of both what government needs to do and on what individuals needed to do. It is the combination of responsible policies and responsible behavior. Let us encourage everyone to study well, to be educated, strive hard to find a better job, treat everybody equally and help each other. Together, let us join our hands and stand up from poverty. That's the end of our talk show. Thank you everyone and God bless.